South East Queensland is tonight in its strictest lockdown since the pandemic began, as the state records another 6 new local cases of COVID-19. It's prompted health authorities to impose restrictions Queenslanders haven't seen before in an effort to contain the highly infectious Delta variant before it gets out of control. 2 Brisbane schools linked to the outbreak are closed, with thousands of students forced to quarantine for 2 weeks. Ashley Stevenson begins our coverage.
Shops packing up, crowds thinning out. As the 4 p.m. deadline approached, Brisbane's bustling streets fell silent and the southeast descended into another lockdown.
This will be the strictest lockdown that we have had.
The tough measures sparked by 6 new local cases of the Delta variant today, linked to the high school student in Brisbane's inner west. Until 4 p.m. Tuesday, 11 local government areas in the southeast are locked down. There's only 4 reasons you can leave your home: for essential work, school or childcare, for medical treatment, including getting a COVID test or vaccine, or to care for a vulnerable person, to exercise, which is allowed with 1 person from outside your household, or to get groceries. But both shopping and exercise must be done within 10 kilometres of your home.
That is a stricter geographic movement restriction than we've had in the recent lockdowns.
Schools will be closed during the lockdown except to children of essential workers. High school students and teachers must wear masks. Visitors to your home are not allowed.
This is one of the most restrictive lockdowns we've had since the start of the pandemic, which makes sense because this is the most infectious variant we've had since the start of the pandemic.
Weddings and funerals are capped to 10 people. Cafes and restaurants are back to takeaway only.
We're sort of getting used to it, unfortunately. The biggest problem, obviously, is casual staff and permanent part-time staff that haven't got their hours banked up. There's no money.
This lockdown has come not long after the last one, and that's why for this lockdown we will seek to have a compensation package in place.
The federal government has now declared South East Queensland a hotspot, meaning Commonwealth support will be available.
We will reprioritise vaccine supplies if required. Access to COVID-19 disaster payments if eligibility criteria are met.
Health authorities hope the hard and fast 3-day lockdown will be able to contain the outbreak, but admit contact tracers now have an enormous job ahead of them. A new outbreak, but the same message.
Stay at home. That's the safest place for everyone to be until we can sort this out.
She's hoping it will only take 3 days to do that.
And we cross now to Ashley Stevenson. Now, Ash, it looks like the Ekka is now in jeopardy.
Lexi, this afternoon preparations for the Ekka were put on hold for 24 hours on advice from Queensland Health. So that means all building works, all competitions and all planning have been paused, and that's in line with these restrictions that we're now under, that the government imposed today. So, of course, the Ekka is such an important event, not only for the general public, it's a highlight of the year, but of course for so many industries across the state. So if it doesn't go ahead, that will be disappointing, no doubt, for thousands of people. So organisers now holding their breath. At this stage, the event is slated to go ahead next weekend.
A nervous wait. Thanks, Ash. More than a dozen new exposure sites have been identified so far. They include shops in Oxley and Jindalee, bus routes and Indooroopilly Shopping Centre. Authorities are still trying to firm up the missing link in this cluster, and they believe a medical student who tutored the 17-year-old high school girl could just hold the key.
Long queues at testing sites in Brisbane's west, the scene of the state's latest COVID cluster. A never-ending line of cars with worried residents who fear they've been exposed to the Delta strain of the virus.
We know it's in Taringa and we know it's in Indooroopilly.
Another 6 new infections today are linked to yesterday's case, a 17-year-old student from Indooroopilly State High School.
The new cases are their family members, both parents and 2 siblings, and a medical student who tutors the student, as well as a staff member from Ironside State School, which is where one of the siblings attends.
Staff, students and families from both Indooroopilly High and Ironside in St Lucia must now quarantine for 14 days. The University of Queensland, where the medical students studied, has also been locked down. The Chief Health Officer says genome sequencing has traced this latest cluster back to 2 previous infections acquired overseas. But it's the medical student who worked at a number of locations, including here at the PA hospital, that she believes could be the missing link, but not a direct one.
I suspect that that medical student is the index case and has taken it into that household, and then it has spread within that household.
The 2 people flew into Brisbane on June 29 and both tested positive during their 14 days in hotel quarantine. One was treated at the Gold Coast University Hospital before flying back to WA, while the other was taken to the Sunshine Coast for treatment before going home to Buderim. Health authorities believe one of those cases has passed it to someone else in the community, who has then given it to the medical student. As authorities work backwards to determine the source of the community transmission, they also want to locate and isolate any further cases, with more than a dozen new exposure sites already popping up across Brisbane.
But I expect there are going to be an enormous number of exposure sites all through Brisbane and probably as well through the Sunshine Coast and further. Check our website and check it every single day going forward.
Talissa Saganto, ABC News, Brisbane.
Now, the lockdown has thrown our professional sporting leagues into chaos as well, as officials now work overtime to try and find a solution. AFL clubs fled the state this afternoon, while NRL matches to be played in Brisbane and Rockhampton have been postponed.
The NRL's unofficial home for the last month resembled a ghost town. Thousands were due to flock to Lang Park for tonight's doubleheader.
There are NRL games due to be played this afternoon and tonight. Will they go ahead?
No.
In Rockhampton, Brown Park was deserted at the time it should have been hosting its first ever NRL match between the Dragons and Rabbitohs.
We were just about to get on the bus at our team hotel when our general manager pulled us up and said the game, or we didn't know then the game wasn't going to be going ahead.
The Rabbitohs had arrived in the beef capital but were soon sent back to Brisbane. By then, the NRL had confirmed all 3 of today's matches were off. In a statement, they said they're continuing discussions with the Queensland government to possibly play matches tomorrow.
There's been a few things being thrown around, playing it Monday night or maybe even going to Canberra has been suggested.
In the meantime, all players have returned to level 4 biosecurity protocols in their hotels.
There will be no football matches, so no community sport, no professional sport, nothing for the next 3 days.
At Noosa, families of Olympic swimmers headed home hours after watching their loved ones win more medals for Australia.
Campaign done.
There's still another day of swimming to go in Tokyo.
A shot at goal.
Reserve AFL teams on the Gold Coast heeded health advice immediately.
Breaking news here from Gold Coast Suns senior coach Stuart Dew. Due to COVID, this game has officially been cancelled.
Oh. Just days ago, outbreaks across the country had forced the AFL to move several matches here to Queensland this weekend, including one to be played between the Bombers and Swans tonight here at the Gabba. By 4 o'clock, all teams had fled the state just in time. The AFL confirming late this afternoon all 3 games will instead be played in Melbourne tomorrow. And the Super Netball season will remain in Queensland despite matches due to be played on Monday and Tuesday. Jessica Stewart, ABC News, Brisbane.